Hi, Ron LeGrand here. Before we get started with the podcast, I thought you might want to know that I recently recorded a 90-minute online training about how we make so much money today in the terms business. That's on pretty houses in pretty neighborhoods, not the junk houses that we have to go rehab or wholesale. I go through step by step on exactly what I and thousands of my students are doing right now to make the fastest and the easiest money in real estate without using your money or credit. If you're interested in doing just that, go to thementorpodcast.com/free training. See you there.
Welcome to the Mentor Podcast, where the most highly motivated entrepreneurs come to get their weekly dose of financial stability with host Ron LeGrand, as well as other nationally recognized thought leaders who will teach you how to get, grow, and protect your wealth.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Mentor Podcast. I have with me Pam Bardhi, who's got quite an interesting background, and I think you're going to want to listen to what this young lady said, a gal who is an immigrant from rags to riches, starting in a pizza shop with your parents, as I recall. And then they got you to delivering pizza. And then before you're 21 years old, you decided you want to get into the restaurant business, which I can relate to that. I've had 6 of them, Pam. Wow. And then, of course, from there, you flipped your first house. And then from there, you started into working into commercial real estate. Is that about the size of it?
Yeah. That's about the size of it. Yep.
Okay. And now you got a podcast that seems to be in the top 1.5% in the world. Am I reading that right? Because that's an amazing achievement right there.
Yes. Right? Top 1.5% of podcasts in the world, streamed in 65 plus countries.
Wow. So how long have you been doing that podcast?
So I launched that mid 2020. So it's been a couple years in the game now.
All right, so I don't know anybody that knows more about Pamela than Pamela. So why don't you give us a little background and history on yourself? And first question I'm going to ask you after you do that is, how did you go from working in your parents' pizza shop to being where you are today? In fact, give us a description of where you are today while you're at it.
Absolutely. Ron, thank you so much for the fabulous introduction. It's an honor to be in your presence, my friend, and to be part of this show today. So thank you for having me, first and foremost. So it's interesting. So my story, I'll kind of tell you where I'm at now and then kind of backtrack of how I got there. So really, I mean, now I'm focused more so in the life coaching space and real estate coaching as well, because that's been kind of my forte. So that's my world now. However, you know, I came to the U.S. when I was about 5 years old. My parents won the visa lottery to come to the U.S. And essentially, my parents came here with absolutely nothing. None of our family was here. They didn't know how to speak English. They didn't have any job security, didn't know where they were going to live, nothing. Like my dad won the visa lottery to come here. And he was like, I'm doing whatever it takes when I get out there. I was 5 and my little brother was a newborn. So eventually he started getting into all these different types of jobs, and he got into the restaurant space. And the owner of the restaurant became like his best friend. And he told him, Sokol, the way you build wealth in America is one of 2 ways. A, you own your own business. B, you own real estate. At that point, he was only here for a couple of years, right? So he didn't have the credit to buy real estate or the down payment. So he went out and his mentor gave him a down payment to go out and buy a business. So he bought a business. And from there, I started working there when I was 10. By the time I was 18, I was running the show at my dad's place. By the time I was 21, I had 2 of my own restaurants plus his. And then from there, you know, I found myself working 14 to 16-hour days.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Really, I've never met a restaurant owner that couldn't say that, Pamela.
and
they all say that. Yeah.
Seriously. And I found myself like in my restaurants kind of like swarmed, because I was thinking about, well, what happens when I have a family and like all these things? I can't be working.
Yeah.
This can't be it. Right. And so from there, I sort of shifted and I was like, well, what else can I do? Well, how can I build different streams of revenue? Because I kept on hearing, you know, the average millionaire has 7 different streams of income and all these things. And I'm like, well, I have 2 and I'm severely in debt because of the restaurant. So what do I do now? These real estate developers start coming into my restaurant and, you know, I'm like, first I thought they were drug dealers, Ron. I was like, how do these guys like go ahead and do what they do? And make your money work for you. They're taking weekends off and, living their dream life. And I'm like, how the hell can they do that?
Yeah.
And so they started teaching me about the concepts of like making your money work for you and things like that. So that was a really interesting process for me to learn. And I was like, you know what? And I started getting introduced to the concept of flipping houses. And so from there, I just networked, ended up hiring a coach, and then kind of just navigating from there. Honestly, I mean, it's been a journey, but I flipped my first house, made about 90,000 on it. And I was like, okay, well, time to go all in here. This is crazy pants, let's go.
Yeah, I can see why.
I started flipping, and then it grew from there. Got my real estate license just because I was transacting so much on my own properties, and then, grew into commercial real estate because of that, and then built up my development company, then eventually became one of the youngest female general contractors in the state of Massachusetts because I started my construction company. Since I was leading all my own projects, I was like, whatever, might as well get my license and do it myself. So that's what happened. And so in the city of Boston, that's what I was doing. And basically, by the time I was 27, 28 years old, I was financially free, hit my 7-figure net. It was amazing. And then after that, it was like, okay, Pam, what are you doing for the world? You're doing great for yourself. What are you doing for the world? Got that little tap on my shoulder. And then from there, just basically launched the podcast. And then that took me to a whole nother stratosphere of wanting to get into the coaching space and helping people and more impact work. And that's where I am today in a nutshell.
Yeah. So are you doing real estate development now, Pam?
I closed out 13 of my deals in 2021. So now it's the commitment is to building out my real estate team and basically just deal making in a different way, and coaching through that space. So that's what I'm doing mostly today.
So you're not developing now?
No. Now I put more deals together. And yep.
What kind of development were you doing?
Single family, 1 to 4 units in the city of Boston, very niche. Like I had my 3 sub-cities that I was working in, and that's all I was doing: condo conversions, single family flips, things of that nature.
Okay. All right. So today, where are you heading? What is it you want to do now?
Yeah, just coaching. I just want to help other people learn the business of real estate and learning how to leverage it in their own lives. Because that's the thing, is like real estate's one of those things that you can plug in any way, any single way that you want to. It's just a matter of how does it fit in your life? Because some people do real estate and they think they got to go full time, that it's a full-time career, that you got to, and I'm like, listen, even as somebody who works like a 9 to 5 and you own a piece of property, you could still be investing. There's still things you could do. It's not, you're not either just an investor or just an agent or all these things. It's like, how can you leverage real estate in your life to take you to the next level? Because these are things, I mean, the number one source of wealth for all Americans is their home.
Yeah.
It's the biggest source of wealth in the United States of America. And it's like, use that, because you can use equity lines of credit. I mean, Ron, how much you can play with real estate.
Especially with appreciation the way it is right now. People are getting rich just because they have real estate. Yeah. So, Pam, I'm going to be looking back here for a second. I'm thinking about your parents. They immigrated here. They had nothing. They didn't even know really what they were going to do when they get here. And they didn't have any connections here. Is that correct?
Correct.
I mean, you've got to imagine how much guts that takes right there. So when they immigrated here, what was life like where they lived before they immigrated here? What compelled them to come here?
Yeah. So in Albania, growing up, it was actually under communist rule. So that was the year that I was born. And my parents did not want me to grow like that, because they grew up in it and they know exactly what it was like. So when I was about 6 months old, my parents moved to Rome, Italy. Like he was doing like pharmacy, like deliveries. He was doing pizza deliveries. He was doing construction, like anything he could to keep the family afloat. And my mom was just doing whatever she could from home. And then years old, she was pregnant with my little brother. And we found out the day he was born that we won the visa lottery to come to the United States of America. Because my dad had been trying to get into the visa lottery for like 5-6 years. Then my grandmother put their names in. She found out the day my little brother was born. She walked into the hospital and she said, "Hey, congratulations on your baby boy. By the way, you got chosen to go to the United States of America." My dad's like, "See ya."
All right. So I'm just putting myself in their position. I mean, golly, give up everything that I got here, go to some place I've never been before and I know nothing about. And everything I've heard is probably fake news. Of course, he didn't know that then. Okay. So why did he choose Boston?
So they chose Boston because we did have family friends here. So we had some friends.
Okay.
Yeah. So like there was from in Albania, there was family there that they had some family here. And so it was through friends, but they didn't know them personally.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's when they came to Boston.
And from what I've learned over the years about immigrants, when they come here, they really work their tails off. They don't complain about things. They know how fortunate they are to be here, and they don't whine and bellyache and bitch about everything like the Americans that were raised here and think they're entitled to everything that all the freedoms that we have here. It seems like every immigrant that I've ever seen succeed in this business, and I got a ton of them. I remember a story one time about one of my students who was working in the back of a restaurant, couldn't speak English, but bought my tapes back then and had one of his friends tell him what I was saying. And he went on to start buying houses. So, I just have a lot of respect for the immigrants that come here and succeed. And I know you got your motivation and, frankly, all your habits and from them. And because for you to even have two restaurants at the age of 21 is an amazing feat. So you've accomplished a lot. So where you want to go from here is you want to help other people do what you've done and get them started in real estate, correct?
Yes. Yep. But I have a life coaching element that's really the most important that I like to say. It's like the foundation. So more so I'm a life coach, but then I also train in how to leverage in real estate. But like, I really believe that success comes from the alignment of mind, body, and spirit, right? So if we can get right over here, you can go and to succeed anything else. So that's actually what I like to focus on most is really that alignment and making sure that the foundation is set, right? Because Ron, we never build houses on sand, do we?
No.
So that's the thing is like, a lot of people want to get rich and they want to do this. We get asked to do.
Pamela, what is the biggest hurdle? I mean, I think you just described it, the biggest hurdles between the right ear and the left ear. We got to change their thinking before we can help them change anything else. First of all, a lot of people come to us and they just don't feel like they're worthy. They've spent their entire life swapping hours for dollars and haven't made any real money. And some of them come in with guilt from things that happened in the past. And then others just come in plain old frozen with fear. I mean, I'm looking back, I can understand because I was pretty much the same way when I got started back in 1982. But like you, I've been an entrepreneur all my life. So that kind of helped me overcome a lot of hurdles that people bring to the table that they get when they're working for a job and they don't really have the responsibilities of running a business. And that's two totally different things. I find we spend more time helping people change and fix their attitudes and their self-esteem than we do teaching them real estate by far. And I think the biggest hurdle is that fear. And when you start asking them, what are you afraid of? They really many times don't even know. They're just afraid. They're just afraid to take the next move. All right. So what do you do to help people when they come to you like that? What can you do for them when you know that the attitude's first thing we got to fix?
Yeah, for sure. So the biggest thing is like understanding where they're at, meeting them where they're at. Like, where are you right now?
Yeah.
Most people have no idea what they want.
Right.
And that's the hard part.
And I think most people think that you need money or credit to do real estate, which is not true. And in fact, I spent my life teaching people that and living that. That's not true. So it starts with coming in with a lot of doubt. There's no reason why you shouldn't be skeptical in this world today. I mean, you can't believe a thing you hear from most people. The whole world's full of crap. I got a T-shirt that says that. Yeah. And it's true. There's a lot of folks out there teaching stuff that they really aren't qualified to teach, and you never know who to listen to. But truth is, you better seek out the people who are doing what they say and not just saying what they would like to do. If they weren't teaching it. So you start with the low self-esteem. I think that the fix for that is help them get a check as fast as possible. Checks seem to cure fear. Have you ever noticed that? Huh?
Yes.
And I call that first one their shut up check. You know, they can hold it up, shut up, go away, leave me alone when all the dream stealers are coming at them, trying to tell them how they can't succeed. And I also tell people, be careful to whom you listen, because broke people cannot teach you how to be rich. They're not qualified, but they all have an opinion worth pretty much exactly what it costs. So in your world, you got people coming in. What do you help them do to get to the next level?
Oh, so we create that game plan. I think it's really that they want to be. And then we create that game plan according to what they've got going on in their life.
Mm-hmm.
That is number one. And then strategizing, creating the logistical strategy of how they're going to get there. And then how do we plug them in to the things that they want? Most of the time it's real estate, right? But on the life coach, separate from that, right? They've got different careers, or, you know, they're an entrepreneur in a different type of industry or whatever. But basically the framework remains the same. Is creating that life plan for them that, okay, here's how we're going to get to these levels. And we break it down by like year goals, 3-year goals, 5-year goals, and 10-year goals, right? So it's that way you have milestones sort of every step of the way and breaking it down. And I find that when you break it down and chunk it down like that, that it becomes much more attainable. Because sometimes people are like, I want to make 6 figures, but I don't know how I'm going to do that. And then it's like, well, okay, let's figure out, you know, how many properties do you need to flip, or how many properties do you need to sell to get there? Okay. And every month you've got to do this, this, and this. So it's almost like a full breakdown. And then people could take it and say, it's almost like a to-do list. And then they rock and roll throughout that. But then in between all of that is a lot of the mindset work and like, what is it that's holding you back? What is it that you fear? What's something that you've been holding inside? You know, a lot of that type of work and reprogramming of the mind that's happening throughout the process. So it's a culmination of personal development and goal setting.
So if I were to say, Pamela, I want you to give one piece of advice to our listeners, what would that be? What would be at the top of your list?
A piece of advice in the real estate space or just life in general?
Well, okay, we can do one of each.
So in real estate, definitely learn how to budget accordingly. Anybody who's flipping, anybody who's doing any type of development project, please put in like a 25% contingency in whatever it is that you're doing. I'm seeing a lot of people lose their shirt right now because of construction material with projects that they created 3-5 years ago.
Are you trying to tell me that things don't work out the way they look on the spreadsheet?
Yep, exactly.
No way. No, I've never had projects like that, Pam.
The budgeting is critical in real estate.
But those spreadsheets are nice to look at, aren't they?
They're so nice. And then in reality, it's like, oh my God. So those contingencies are huge. To make sure you leave space.
Yeah.
Make sure you leave space for that. And really just always, it comes down to the numbers.
What you're saying is Murphy is everywhere and things are going to go wrong. And they always do. And regardless of what project, sometimes they work out better than you plan, but you got a plan that they don't. And most people don't. They stretch it. They do everything. They force the numbers to try to make the project work instead of dealing with reality. I always tell people, better ask yourself every time you get into a project, what can go wrong? And what can I do right now to fix it? In this case, I'm planning. I can use very conservative numbers. And then I also tell them we need to learn how to make good money with bad numbers. So if the numbers have to be perfect for it to work, we better adjust the deal or get out of the deal or fix it somehow going in because we planned for it. So that's good advice. Okay. Now that's actually real estate. Is that life advice or is that real estate or is that both?
That's real estate. Yeah, that's definitely real estate. Real estate's all about the numbers. Don't fall in love with any property. That's another piece of advice too, because then you start to get too custom and you get crazy. Absolutely. And then the next piece of advice that I would say to you on the life side is regret is far worse than fear.
Yeah.
Do you want to be on your deathbed and say, I wish I did this. I wish I did that. Just go for it. What's the worst that can happen? Honestly. Oh, something didn't go right. Okay, no problem. Then you try something else.
Yeah, you got it. That's exactly right. In other words, you got to have a little grit. Got to develop an alligator skin. You got to understand that things are going to go wrong and that nobody's out there really trying to help you. In fact, the more of them trying to hurt you. And you better get used to the fact that people don't do what they say they're going to do. and live with it. And entrepreneurs learn that very, very quickly in any business for that matter. So if you're coming from a job to an entrepreneurship, you're on your own, baby. And that means you've got to grow up and get up and move up because life's not going to go the way you plan. All right. Well, we're getting close to the end here. So tell me, what's one of the biggest mistakes you've made in your career?
That goes back to my piece of advice that I gave you earlier, budgeting. Dear God, getting into flips, I'd never had construction experience, right? So I was kind of under budgeting certain things and I thought I was over budgeting and I didn't put the contingency in place like a dum-dum. So there were some deals that I didn't do so hot on because of that. And I would also say stick to your market, because for me, anytime that I stepped outside of the areas that I didn't really I was like, I don't know about this. It wasn't really my area of specialty. Then I was always regretful because I didn't make as much as I did. Whereas if I kept everybody in Boston, all the projects were moving because all the guys were in one central location and they were moving together. So just a lot of logistic stuff in real estate, honestly, that I wish I knew better. But the budgeting was definitely a big mistake that I made. So please know your numbers.
So what you're saying is, if you can't make money in your own market, you're not going to make money in other markets as well. Because people are always saying, where is the best place to buy real estate? The answer is where you live. There is no place in America where people don't have to sell houses and other people don't have to buy houses. Mm-hmm. That's the business we're in. It's always been that way. It'll always be that way, regardless of the economy, the inflation rate, or who's president, or who's sleeping with who, or who's arguing with who, or who's in Congress. Doesn't make any difference. People always need a place to live. And we're in a position to where we can continue making that happen. Now, I've been through 6 cycles, Pamela, through my life. 2008 was the worst. But frankly, we just adapt to the marketplace. Now, there is no better time in my 40 years in this business, the easier time to sell a house than right now. We've never seen this market before, may never see it again. So that ain't always the case. I can remember where it was a real struggle to sell a house. But that's the good side of a market we're in right now. The bad side is we got to work harder to find the deals because there's so many greater fools out there looking for them. And they're watching the reality shows, and that's how you do it. You forget about all those numbers that you weren't trained. You're trained on now. All that you went through is just nothing more than training. That's all it is. Okay, so now you know. So anyway,
absolutely.
Is there anything else you want to tell our audience before we get off this today?
I would just say, it's all within you, right? It's just the fear that holds you back. Trust that gut, that tap on your shoulder that's telling you this, and the red flags that you're feeling and you're seeing, but you don't want to listen, right? Yeah. Trust your intuition. They will never guide you the wrong way. I'll tell you, every single time that I did not listen, I paid for it later on. Is that true for you too, Ron?
No. I've never made any mistakes or taken any hard lessons, man.
But every time I didn't listen, I was like, my gut was telling me this and I didn't listen.
Right. So right. Not only to yourself, but other good qualified advice to get from other people. Yeah, it takes a while. You have to grow up a little bit before you realize you don't know anything. And there's always people that are smarter than you out there, regardless of where you think you are, how important you are. And then there's also the hardest lesson I learned, I think, way back was I wouldn't turn loose. I want to do everything myself. And in time, I started delegating everything. And today I do nothing. I delegate everything. I mean, literally everything. I'm filming this from my home, as you can see by my background here. I don't go into the office very often, but I have a whole team of people that are doing it. And I learned to replace myself. So when I train people today, it's about doing real estate. But frankly, that's the easiest part of the training. The hardest part is getting them to turn loose and build a business that doesn't require their presence, that yet will produce continuous ongoing cash flow, not just one check and you got to go get another check like you do in the pizza business.
Right.
I've had 6 restaurants, and that's not the way to wealth. That's not the way to wealth. That's the way to getting old, isn't it, man?
Yes, it is. Oh my goodness. Absolutely.
Well, listen, do you have anything you want to share with our listeners? You want to give away something or anything like that before we get off here today?
Yeah. I mean, listen, Ron, I always like to add value as much as I possibly can to everyone. So, I mean, honestly, I always say, like, I have this website called meetwithpamela.com. If there's any way that I could help you, like any resources, any insight, anything that I can do to help your listeners, just like set up a call with me, like for free. I just love to help people. So meetwithpamela.com. That's pretty much my website, and anyone can go on there and ask me questions about anything, real estate, life, like whatever I can do to help. That would be my one thing.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Pamela. It's been a pleasure interviewing you, and congratulations on your success. You're a real success story.
Thank you so much, Ron. I appreciate you. I'm so grateful for you having me today. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
That's all for this edition of the Mentor Podcast. To connect with Ron and learn how you can attain financial freedom, as well as up-to-date strategies to grow and protect your wealth based on today's discussion, go to www.connectwiththementor.com.